saying men should be dangerous. By dangerous, that implies I should be ready to threaten someone, to hurt somebody.
No, you should be capable of it. There's nothing to you otherwise.
Welcome to the Dangerous Man Podcast, where we talk about how to become a better man, take responsibility for our mission, create value for others, and the many failures and lessons we've learned along the way. Stay dangerous. Welcome back to another fabulous episode of The Dangerous Man. This is your host, John Kostohris, joined by the beloved and awesome, amazing, epic co-host,
Adam Thooft. What is up?
What is up, everybody? Let's just start it off with the question. Do you, struggle with, the idea of personality tests, and you sometimes see, how do they fit into my life? Do you have, some kind of, in the workplace, are you ever frustrated with certain tasks or types of activities or work kind of roles that you have to do that just frustrate you or don't give you life, and you just spend time dreaming of man, I'd love to do these types of things for work, and I'd love to have these types of jobs where I could, be in, do the things I love and I'm good at. Well, I think this episode will be for you then, because we are revisiting, going deeper into what we talked about in episode 40. So if you haven't listened to episode 40, I'd go back there and dive into that, where we cover the 6 types of working genius from the book by Patrick Lencioni, or as we like to say,
Lencioni.
Yeah, the
This
Italian.
makes it sound like a mob boss.
Yeah,
that's
Italian
the word.
mob. So we
Lencioni and his boys.
His boys.
Better not cross them.
We do pull our 2 shooters. Oh man, they're probably gonna label this episode may or may not be true about guns, just because we said that or some bullshit. No, dude. I'm gonna talk about it anyways. But they truly are. We're gonna go deep into. I'm gonna give a quick overview, but go back to the episode. And it's basically, there are 6 of them, 6 types of working genius, and 20% of this is personality related. And so this isn't like a personality test. It's 80% of it is, these are productivity based working geniuses. And so it's supposed to be, it's how you function and interact and are productive in work, and how projects. If you see a project from start to finish, what are the 6 elements and stages of that project. And so this is kind of, and so the 6 types of working genius, just for quick overview, 2 are going to be frustrations. There are going to be 2 that suck life from you. They aren't satisfying. You don't find joy in them, and it really drains your energy. And there's going to be 2 that are your geniuses, hence the working genius. And so 2 of these elements are going to, or stages you could say, really give you a lot of energy. You get a lot of satisfaction and joy from these things, and typically there's some kind of God-given, or you could say just giftedness that you have. Oftentimes it can equate to you being really good at it naturally. And then the other 2, that's 2, 4, 6, right? The last 2 are just in the middle. It's not necessarily one way or the other, but they call them competencies. And so it could be you're competent, you're not sucked life or frustrated, but it's also not your genius per se. But you can do them quite capably, and just up the middle. So
I think one of the very common misconceptions with it,
before we dive in here,
is that your frustrations you're really bad at and can barely do. Your geniuses you're amazing at, and then your competencies you're okay at. That's actually not the case. There's people that can be pretty adept at their frustrations just because in the life situation that they're given, or they're just a type of person that tries to be good at everything. They'll be actually pretty adept at their frustrations as well. Because at any point in work, you're going to have to use all of the kind of geniuses. But it's just going to be when you have to work in something that involves one of your frustrations, it's going to drain you. and you tend to not be as naturally good at it because it drains you.
Right. Like we tend to spend more time doing the things that we love
And get joy and energy from, right?
Exactly. And so because we do them more, we typically get better. So it makes sense, but Adam's correct. You can 100% have skills and be really talented at some of your frustrations. It's just probably going to be something you don't really want to do that often.
Yeah.
And but we wanted to start with, you kind of have the project start the early phase geniuses, and Adam likes to describe from, I guess, he drew out some doodles on our whiteboard here, but from the book.
On our absolutely massive whiteboard.
Oh my gosh, dude.
The biggest whiteboard in town.
The bigger than Texas ego whiteboard. Well, maybe not quite that big, but
it will eventually be bigger than it is though.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll add on to it.
I just imagine like a stadium where like half of it's just a big ass whiteboard.
We'll have financed that. Just
That's the
when
dream.
you see it in the news, it's going to be us.
I have to climb a ladder in order to actually use this entire whiteboard.
It's kind of like a library top area. But essentially, these 6 things are like gears. And so if you imagine kind of gears that are connected from start to finish, there's 6 of them, and at any rate, that's kind of the idea here. But the very first one, the beginning phase of work of a project, is what we're going to talk about today, and that is
the genius of wonder.
Take it away, Adam.
Now, I took the assessment of figuring out. Basically, it's a questionnaire, or see if these statements are true about you, or how true these statements are about you, of figuring out what my working geniuses are, what my competencies are, and what my frustrations are.
So
now,
Patrick has an actual quiz you can do to help you narrow that down online.
And it costs $25. So I'm going to give you some insights that are some of the value in that. So here we go. Because one of my geniuses is wonder. Now, how after you take the assessment, you get emailed a document of kind of like the results. And this is kind of the definition of wonder from that document. So wonder. The genius of wonder involves pondering and asking questions, contemplating the reasons why things are the way they are. People with this genius derive joy and energy from thoughtfully observing the environment around them and wondering whether there might be a different or better way. Compared to other geniuses, wonder is not the most observable genius because it is a mostly internal process. However, almost every new initiative, program, or project begins because someone wonders. The benefits of this genius include asking big questions, prompting people to consider assumptions that may be needed or to be questioned, and challenging the status quo. So this one really involves a lot of looking at like, I wonder if we could change that. Like it's very easy to know if you're wondering because you can start the phrase with, I wonder if.
Yeah.
So it's like, I wonder if there's a better way we can.
I wonder if if the clouds in heaven are made of hot sauce.
Yeah. Kind of like, it's like a wondering thing. And like it's interesting because the point of wonder isn't necessarily to like solve the issue. That's the next one, which is invention, or come up with a solution. It's more to observe it. And so there's kind of like a little bit of wandering in the wonder where you're like, oh, interesting. I observe that. And there can be a lot of kind of, is there a better way to do this? What, like, there might be, is there an issue with this? Is there a way to fix that? What can we do? It's kind of like that thing, and just kind of thinking about all of the different things there. And I definitely know for me, like, even growing up, I can think of times where I was just like stuck in wonder where like I'd go hiking with my family, as one does. And I'd be like walking with my dad, and we'd like find like a nice little like rock outcropping next to like a stream and a waterfall. And I think I like just like sat there and just thought about stuff for like, I'm not even kidding, probably a half an hour straight or so.
Yeah.
And then eventually my
Nice.
dad was like, okay, we should probably keep moving down the trail now. And I'm like, oh, right. Yeah.
Right. Because you just got lost in the sauce of wonder.
Yeah. Because it's like, wow, like
Contemplation.
the contemplation of like, wow, this is a really cool stream. Like, why does it flow the way it does? And like, why is the waterfall the size, and like how much water is coming across like the waterfall? But also like, this also just reminds me, like the sound of the water reminds me of like being like kind of peaceful, but also still doing things. And it's like reflecting on my life of like, when have I been peaceful in my life? And like, you know, like it's almost like you're wondering like, oh, like how do I relate to this stream in a way? And how, like, it's just basically wondering, I feel like you just go down a bunch of rabbit holes of thought of like, oh, wow, interesting.
Huh.
And I definitely know it's a genius, because sometimes I will like kind of space out from a conversation because I think someone said something and I start wondering about it. And then I'm like, oh, sorry, what were you saying? Oh, yes. I was wondering about the thing that you said earlier with the clouds being hot sauce in heaven. And my brain was like, would they be like the color of Cholula, or like,
Yeah, definitely.
would they be like a darker color? Because it's like hot sauce, but it also tastes amazing. It's not just hot. Like, but what would it taste like? Like,
Would I just, when it rains, that I just come outside with my tacos and
get a hot sauce? Yeah. It's like,
it's cool
yeah.
too, because okay, I was gonna say, I think there's a disposition you have to like sink into that type of thought,
mhm.
but well, I'm just gonna say wonder isn't just about like
Getting lost in the sauce,
quote unquote, spacing
Yeah.
out and kind of being like, like
It can just be a natural tendency for someone who does have
Right.
wonder as a genius.
that could be.
Because I get
'Cause
energy and joy from it.
One thing he says in the book, from kind of what you were presenting on the other day, Adam, is there is an ability to observe something and say, could this be better?
Yes.
And it's not necessarily, you could ask how it could be better, but it's not necessarily like you problem solving and coming up with solutions. And I think
Mhm.
Adam kind of touched on that with the invention is kind of the next stage. But there is an ability to initially recognize,
Mm-hmm.
Certain things in your environment, in your workplace, on the job. And I think a lot of people never necessarily ask the question of how could this be improved, or should it be improved, or I wonder if there could be a better way to do this. Some people are very much that it's not even a thought. And I think people that have a genius of wonder, at least maybe a competency, or they live here a little bit, those are the types of thoughts. I think, like we said, 20% is personality, 80% is productivity.
Yeah.
I think we just touch on the personality part briefly here. I think some of it can come from, where was I going with that?
I mean, I think that's kind of the example I was giving of like, sometimes I just start thinking about stuff. And that's kind of like the personality part of it.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I know some people that are extremely sentimental. They'll be like, man, like, I'm trying to think of, there's this example from a podcast I listened to by, I think it was Radio Lab. You should check them out. They're a great like reporting kind of podcast. But there was this museum that one of the hosts and his wife go to, and his wife is just not at all sentimental. She doesn't at all think and wonder about really anything, but he really does. And so he's like, he had a chance to like sit in the chair of like the last emperor of China during like some, one of the phases of I forget the different eras of China's emperor.
The different dynasties.
Dynasties, yeah. He's like, oh my gosh, this was that dynasty, and this great king or whatever emperor sat here. And he sits in the chair, and his mind just goes, whoa, like I'm sitting in this chair. And he's like, honey, like, blah, 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 blah. I'm in this chair of the emperor. And she's just like, that's cool. Like, isn't that awesome? I guess. Like it just, you know, and then like the next thing, like, here's this machete, like this machete came back from like, you know, I don't know, like the medieval times or whatever. And like, and this was used by like Matilda Hun. And like, isn't this like, I'm holding this sword. And she's like, yeah. It's like, isn't that really cool? And she's like, I probably won't think twice about it in 30 seconds from now, I already forgot about it. Like, she couldn't put herself in the shoes of like imagining and like, so it's just like, I think that's a really wonder kind of trait. You know, obviously it's not all personality driven here, but there is an element of like, I think the ability to like have those realizations, and this tends to be a little more sentimental with items, perhaps. You know, if they have certain trinkets or not trinkets, but things they own, letters they keep. But there's definitely people that I know that are 100% not that. And it's kind of funny to contrast that. But I think that's what you kind of find is you see it's a 20% personality. But, you know, obviously we're talking about these in the context of workplace. So that's going to be more of a productivity type of a focus. But you could see how that trait is like something that some people love to just be in that state of, and that's where their mind goes, and it's just exciting for them, and that's the way they think and approach the world. And you can imagine that same lens applied to work gets them to be thinking similar types of, wow, this is like, you know what I mean? And diving deeper, whereas a lot of people are just pretty content with like, not a lot, but you know, there are people that are more content with like, yep, just give me the work and I'll just do it. And there's no kind of, you know, there's not that beginning phase of a project where they're just, you know, they wouldn't even be a new project. They was just, whereas the Wanderer can kind of spawn those changes. And
but which for me, it's almost like hard to put myself in a mindset where people like don't wonder. Like I know some people that don't like as much, but it's hard for me to not because it's just like, okay, well, how could we, like, I'm trying to think of a good example. I guess I could use the example of when I was doing some ministry back in what was it, 2021. So
back in the day
when there's a supposed pandemic still going. That's going to be another label that's going to be put on this podcast, but that's fine.
Yeah, I think that'd be a benchmark for us getting flagged by the algorithm. I'm all about it.
Maybe we're trying to do that this episode. So basically when we were doing ministry, we're actually, me and the ministry team that I was on were staying at a old convent. There wasn't like nuns in it anymore, but at this church. And generally when we are doing ministry, we're like traveling around, staying with like families, but we travel around in like a 15-passenger van. So it's we're pretty like tight knit, and we're like always spending time with each other because we work together and live together basically. Right. But when we were at this convent, like it's a pretty large area. It's like three stories, and like everything can be like relatively spread out. And when we weren't doing like our ministry in like our youth events that we were doing, everyone kind of did their own thing a little bit more. And I was like, I just kind of noticed that, and I was like, there's something a little off here. Like, I don't feel like I'm running into the people that are on my team as much as I should be. And I kind of brought this up to some of the guys and was like, why are we doing this ministry? Because like part of the ministry is like, oh, hey, you have like really good relationships with like your team. And because of those like really good relationships with your team,
right,
like the youth that you go evangelize will like see that and like understand that like that's actually a huge part of like the faith. Like that's a big facet of it. And it's like, if we're not actually like focusing on like, you know, like making our team really tight knit and like building each other up, like we're kind of missing something there.
Right. Because when you're on a retreat with, you know, the middle school or high schoolers, they're going to notice if you guys are tight knit and if you really spent the time growing close to one another in friendship, and they're going to tell if you guys just kind of, there's a disconnect there. Yeah. And if there's a stronger connection, that's going to it's honestly going to be more impactful for them
Yeah.
to be brought into those deep relationships and friendships.
Yeah. So it's kind of my observation that's like, oh, like we're pretty spread out right now. Maybe we should do something that's like keeps us a little bit more like tight knit.
Unify us a little.
Yeah. And I guess the solution that we kind of came up with, which is more of the invention part of it, which is the next working genius. But that was just like, oh, hey, if people are doing something, like they invite each other to the things that we're doing. So we're just like doing stuff together all the time when we
And
have that time.
That was the idea
Yeah.
observation you had.
Yeah. It was like, just like the wondering part of it was like, it seems like I'm not really doing much with people. I'm just kind of doing my own thing after we do our event or whatnot, which just feels strange.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is actually good. And I think there's a lot more that we could have there. So that was kind of like a big thing that I saw kind of in the ministry of doing the work of the ministry that we were doing, is that's how I used wonder to kind of improve that.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to have wonder. Cause like, I think some of the other guys were like, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
So that's like one of the things
you were
where,
able to
yeah.
see these observations, wonder about if it was helpful or not for your
Mhm.
team, right?
Yeah.
And then you were able to bring that to the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had people on your team that were, the other 5 steps of working genius were able
Yeah.
to step in and be like, actually, yeah, that's a good point, and come up
Mhm.
with solutions and decide like what was the best idea, whatever. We
Yeah.
won't get too much into all the other steps, but you sought to,
Yeah.
what was kind of the result of that process? Did you guys start like, how did you address that, I guess?
We were more
In
intentional
your team.
about like making sure that we are like spending time with each other and actually building our relationships with each other so we can stay tight knit rather than just kind of spreading out and doing our own thing. So then we can kind of keep that tightness and that of our relationships. So then the youth, the kids on retreat on the events that we were doing can see that, and it improves
Yeah, it's awesome,
our
man.
ministry.
I want to wrap by just saying, or we can get more into this another time. It's probably more of a can of worms, but I was going to say this is an awesome book, definitely something to check out. But we'll be diving into the other 5 working geniuses and just kind of discussing more what they are, what they bring to the table, how they interact with the others, and yeah, if you might be listening and go, wow, like this is definitely something that I do and I get a lot of life from this wonder, or it might be like, yeah, that's not me at all. And when I engage with people like that, it's kind of like, oh, I don't even care. And well, I just say that's good self-awareness. So if whether you connect one way or the other, it's good. It's good. If you're more curious and you want to kind of cut the line, you could go and check out the test for sure. I think you just look up 6 types of working genius, but we'll go more into the other 5 to come. So, yeah, man. And what would it look like if people started using the genius of wonder? I guess what would that do in our circles, and how would you see an impact in the world?
I mean, I think a lot of people would see more of like the supposed issues that might be going on, and then because we're more aware of those, we'd be in a better position to fix them. So, and I think a lot of people would be more on the same page of like what needs to happen or what's wrong.
Yeah.
To be able to fix it. So I think that would be very helpful in work environments to actually say like, oh, like we can improve this and that, and be able to see those a lot faster in the process.
Yeah.
So then you're not like down the line and you're like, oh, we're actually we don't actually know what to fix because we just kind of assumed that thing was fine.
Issues arise. And
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, didn't see this coming.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Whereas like, I feel like people who do a lot of wondering
Yeah.
can like kind of see all of those a lot easier. So it's very helpful to have that at the beginning of the process.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think if people just kind of used wonder, whether it's a genius, a comedy, or a frustration for you, to actually be able to use that wonder some to actually like see issues, but also see good things in other people and in processes and work. And so you can either fix the problems or be like, hey, this is a really good thing that we do. Maybe we do more of that. And so that that leads into my other genius down the road. But
I just think we would see more of I think there would be more. I mean, if this is the start of a project, if this is the initiation of a work process, then I think we just see more kind of sub processes spawning up that would help culture. You know, I think we just see, I don't know, being surrounded by you, Adam, as someone who has a genius of wonder, there's definitely a lot of that, you know, as a person that's an inventor like me, there's a lot that gets fed into what I do because of your initial thoughts. And I think we just see, instead of like, oh, it's the way we've always done it. Well, it's like, okay, well, how's the way we've always done it? What's that done for society? What has that done in your communities, in your family? What has that maybe done in a negative sense in, you know, your larger area, city? You know what I mean? Like, and so I think imagining people that have the genius of wonder really getting to be able to step in and use that and let that spawn, like, okay, let's start these initiatives to help address that. And I think we just, you know, imagine people imagining and how that would just, you know, impact the other and help unite the other geniuses to start working together and the productivity in the workplace. Share the show if you want to help other men embrace danger and become truly great. You've been listening to The Dangerous Man. Join us next time. Until then,
claim your greatness
and stay dangerous.